Hey y'all, it is January the 6th, 2018, and I want to dedicate this particular video, of course, to a Mr. Steve Parrish, and I hope more than anyone that he sees this video. I hope that he will, and that's why I put his name in the dang title. Alright, but I also dedicate it to the group in which who's looking for Katelyn Nicole Davis's justice on the internet. All right, I dedicate it to both parties, and I hope that we can come to some sort of results and agreements and just some results. All right, so I gotta let y'all know this video is inspired by a video clip that I was sent earlier. In fact, the whole group of Katelyn Nicole Davis Justice, we were all sent this video, which is fresh off the presses. All right, I mean it's brand spanking new. I was sent a video. I don't remember by who. I don't know if it was Cherokee or I don't know. It could have been Courtney. I'm not sure. All right, but they sent this video. All right, that we're all aware of right now, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sent a video that Tony Baisley uploaded. All right, and I want to be very brief. All right, I was sent this video to look at it, and as soon as I started looking at it, I became a little bit perturbed, and I believe I voiced my opinion, and that, you know, I keep seeing stuff from Tony, and it keeps kind of disturbing me that anybody's interested. Because it is so much of a waste of time to even bother with Tony Baisley that it did strike me a certain kind of way. I felt like, you know what, I'm being given something that's not very particularly important, and you know, I'm tired of people even wasting their time, is what I started to think. Little did I know that I was actually very much wrong. Okay, I looked at the video that Tony Baisley just put up. I read every word of it. It took me a long time, so I'm a slow reader. But I read every word of it, and I realized that this information from a Tony Baisley, who I deem as worthless, and a joke, and it's absurd, but the information that we got from Tony Baisley actually proved to be quite crucial. Now, I understand that it takes a long time for videos to render themselves onto the internet for me. My technology is lacking. So it might be a little bit late before people see this video. It might be towards the end of the night, perhaps early tomorrow morning, or it might be later that people actually come across this video that I'm sending out. I want to make sure that everybody in Katelyn Nicole Davis Justice see it. But I really I'm excited to see if Steve Parrish sees this video, and I want to talk to you directly more towards the end of the video. All right, but I got the video containing a whole long conversation between our man Tony Baisley and Steve Parrish, Steve Parrish is a man who I never knew before this night. I never really heard his name. I might have heard people talking about him, but I didn't really concern myself. All right, so I read this whole conversation, and I find out so very much. Before I start in on, you know, the results of the conversation, I want to say this. Tony Baisley, absolutely, in one sense, he is worthless and a joke, and everybody laughs at him, and everybody knows that he's a joke, and it's disgusting. And people talk about him a little bit too much for my taste. All right, I do also like to laugh, and sometimes I laugh at him, but I don't feel good about it after I laugh about him. In one sense, he's worthless, completely and totally and utterly. He's a waste of everybody's time. In another sense, he actually is a very lost soul, and technically that is who we're trying to find using Katelyn Nicole Davis Justice. You know, we're really trying. We feel bad for Tony Baisley at the end of the day. We all laugh at him and stuff like this, but at the end of the day, we're going to feel bad for him. We're going to wish we could help him. Thing is, we can't really help him. All right. But thirdly, at the same time, I want to note that although Tony is worthless, it seems, indirectly, it seems as though he might indeed be a crucial factor. In fact, we might be able to use him for our advantage, basically. All right. And I almost hesitate to say that because I know for a fact that Tony Baisley is going to see this video. He'll probably the first person to see this video. And I almost hesitate to let Tony know that you're actually helping our cause by giving us information. I did hesitate at even putting that out there, but at the same time, what everybody needs to understand is that Tony Baisley, the very nature of him operates operates in a way that he wishes so bad to impress us. All right, number one, you have to understand that. Not only that, he wishes to be terroristic in the sense that he wants us to feel very threatened by him. He wants our entire existence to feel very threatened by his actions and things like that. Like he's going to take down everybody on the internet. Obviously, it's absurd. Obviously, this is the thoughts of a person who has too much time on their hands. All right, but at the same time, he needs to get in good with the family, such as a person like Steve Parrish. He needs to create some sort of relevance around himself that does not exist. He has to talk to like people like Steve Parrish or other people who might be around the family. He has to. And not only that, he has to show us every little bit of information that he gets. A lot of people are concerned that Tony Baisley will keep information for himself, and he might keep it up to a certain point, but at the same time, he needs to show us because we're his audience. And so therefore, even though I told Tony, look, you're wasting your time except you're accidentally helping us, he's still going to have to make these videos irregardless. He does not have free will, and he thinks he does, but he doesn't. And it's actually very sad to think about it. All right. But enough of that. I want to discuss what's more important. You could totally delete Tony Baisley's everything he even said out of the transcript, and still what Steve Parrish said was very important. Very, very important. And I want to discuss a couple of things before we get out of here. But before I do that, I want to establish that there are a couple people upon the internet, right, who've been researching and trying to get to the bottom of Katelyn Nicole Davis justice, and they've had experiences with a Mr. Steve Parrish. All right, I know of a couple in particular off the top of my head, and they know who they are. They've had bad experiences with Mr. Steve Parrish, and I got to explain. What I have to explain right now is when you read the transcript, you'll start to understand that he very much had bad experiences with us, or not necessarily with us because I never knew him, but he had bad experiences with people on the internet in general. And people on the internet, all these people in Katelyn Nicole Davis Justice Group, they might be like, well, we didn't ever give him a reason to act all like a jerk with us and this and that. People have got a bad impression of Steve Parrish. But what's really important for everybody to take a second to understand is, who is Steve Parrish? Steve Parrish is the brother of, I forget the father's name, who committed suicide, Tammy's father. Steve Parrish is the brother of him. Steve Parrish, whether you were to like him or not, has literally seen this whole story play out since Tammy's father was a little bitty baby. That's how much Steve Parrish has seen. All right, you gotta understand, if Steve Parrish knew Katelyn Nicole Davis, and if Steve Parrish, if he respected her the way that you do someone who's in your family, you're going to become very defensive. You might very well become very defensive at people on the internet trying to get information from you. As a Steve Parrish, you might look at people on the internet, certain ones especially, and think, well, dang it seems like people are just trying to get some sort of notoriety off Katelyn Nicole. And you know what? Steve Parrish didn't like it. He didn't like it. And admit it or not, there's people on the internet who absolutely do look like they might be trying to ride a Katelyn Nicole Davis wave, to include, and especially I would have to volunteer Jamie Lee Fisher. To be honest with y'all, for those of us who remember Jamie Lee Fisher, she fell off a long time ago. She didn't have what it takes to stick with this case at all. And to some, it very much did seem like she was trying to get some sort of notoriety off it, and that's why she was going where she was going with the Katelyn Nicole Davis situation, until she realized she couldn't handle it, really. She didn't have what it takes to handle it, and so she backed out, and I don't blame her. In fact, you know, I wish only the best for Jamie Lee Fisher. The thing is, she had no business on this case. Right? So Steve Parrish might see Jamie Lee Fisher's out there, and he might see this and that person, and he might think, oh man, you know, these people have nefarious agendas, as he clearly states in the dialogue. He might be already on the defensive. What this would allow for is bad first impressions. Perhaps people had bad first impressions of Steve Parrish, and perhaps Steve Parrish also had bad first impressions of them, and you can see how that's reasonable that would happen. Nobody exactly knew what they should be doing, what was appropriate, and things of this nature, and everybody was seeking for justice. I've heard people tell me in discussion that, you know, Steve Parrish may not be the brightest fella, all right? Thing is, what I gotta let you know is I don't know anything about Steve Parrish except from what I read from the dialogue. All right, they say he's not exactly the sprightest, if you will. He's not exactly a very, very nice individual. He's not the nicest individual you ever met. All right. To that, I had to say, so that everybody understands, none of us are perfect, all right? Steve Parrish ain't perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. Everybody out there is not perfect. Katelyn Nicole wasn't perfect, but she's a beautiful young girl. Steve Parrish is also not perfect. He might let his temper get the best of him. He is, as we know, former military. And the thing is, they have the tendency to be quite manly, kind of confrontational, if you will, assertive to say the least. Maybe Steve Parrish is that. And I don't know Steve Parrish's whole life story. But what I can tell you from what I read is not only did Steve Parrish know and care for Katelyn Nicole, but he knows all sort of insights that us here in the Katelyn Nicole Davis Justice group need to know. We need to know Steve Parrish's insights. Not only that, I think it's also necessary for us collectively and I individually right now, just let it be known, I don't care at all in any sense about notoriety or fame or anything like this. You notice by how many subscribers I have. I'm not really trying to get more. I just need to put out videos, me, myself personally, to get them out there to share information. For those people who share information with me, all I really want out of this situation is information, because I feel like justice does need to be had. And in lots of ways, me and Steve Parrish agree wholeheartedly. In fact, what I gotta say, believe it or not, you guys, is Steve Parrish and I probably agree on more than most, all right, basically, with everybody out here to be included. Me and Steve Parrish we see eye to eye on a lot of things, all right? And like I said, he could very well be kind of a grumpy man with a little bit of a temper. Can you blame him? I mean, people out here totally disrespecting Katelyn Nicole. It's obvious that he had love for her, and the thing is, he's still showing love by representing. All right, unless Steve Parrish is a liar, Steve Parrish has been seeing to at very least the upkeep of Katelyn Nicole's grave plot. All right, that becomes known in the dialogue as well, and that's something to think about. Think about Steve Parrish right now. Think about the fact is he's paying out of his pocket. He seems to be the only one. Him and a couple other people are paying out of pocket for the gravesite to be kept up. All right, and he sees nobody else giving up money for that. He sees all sort of people out here who might not really be looking for justice concerning Katelyn Nicole Davis, and he might get defensive. All right, but like I said, we need to work with Steve Parrish, not only because he has all sort of information and insight to give us. He does hold the keys to the information that we need. Not only that, but we need to work with Steve Parrish because it's the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? I know that myself and everybody in this group, we have more than enough money to lend a few dollars, every month to make sure that the plot is not only kept up, but perhaps very immaculately kept up, because Katelyn Nicole deserves that. All right. Perhaps we can help Steve Parrish in this way. All right, and show him that we're in it to put in work. We're in it to give you some money. We're in it to make sure that Katelyn Nicole is well taken care of in life and in death. And her memory is spread far and wide. That's what we're in it for. And we need to start making a little bit more moves as far as on the ground. Like I said, we need to make sure that Steve Parrish is not the only one paying for the gravesite to be kept up. We need to make sure that Steve Parrish knows. And the thing is, I think he was getting the impression towards the end of the conversation. We need to make sure that Steve Parrish knows that Tony Baisley literally is an obsessive compulsive liar. And he may as well be a little teenage boy for all we know. Nobody knows who he is. All right. So we need to just let Steve Parrish know that he was talking to a robot weirdo for a little while, and that we don't blame him. The thing is, you read the conversation, what I had to note about Steve Parrish is, and what you'll probably know, is that he was never swayed. A lot of us, even here in this Katelyn Nicole Davis group, a lot of us had been swayed by the likes of a Tony Baisley, whatever his name is. Right, but you'll notice that Steve Parrish never was swayed, and he never backed down on his opinion. All right, and his opinion was very much in line with a lot of our opinions. And Steve Parrish knows all sort of information that will prove beneficial to us, not in a financial sense, not even just to us in the Katelyn Nicole Davis group, but Steve Parrish has information that'll prove crucial to everyone across the world. All right. And I believe, I don't know who's going to interview him. Somebody needs to interview him. I don't care who it is, but they need to ask him the right questions, because Steve Parrish really has what it takes to unlock some doors for us, unlock some doors for the world, so that the world can understand better what happened here and why. And how do we reverse engineer that? For all these children out here who suffer similar consequences, who have parents who are all doped up or maybe absent or maybe abusing them in all sort of untold ways. If we can reverse engineer this whole situation happening around Katelyn, we can really get a grasp on how we can prevent it from happening more in the future. We can really take a bite out of it and decrease it. If we show its ugly face, if we show the ugly face of the demons who are stealing our youth from us, if we show the ugly face on the lifestyles that enable children to be abused, if we simply show it with great detail, everybody around the world will understand the gravity of the problem that we face. The severity of the fact is we're losing our children and we cannot afford to. All right, so I hope that made sense to any of y'all out there. I hope Steve Parrish hollers at one of us. Probably... Steve Parrish, if you're listening to me right now, holler at Celeste, probably. Or there's a number of us that you could holler at. You could also put up your own video, and people will find it, and we'll put it up, and we won't edit it or anything like that. We want to hear your words in their entirety. We want to hear all of your words. We are very, very concerned. We think that you are very much in line with the justice that we all seek, except for Tony Baisley, who's a damn liar. I mean, he's an obsessive compulsive liar. You could tell by his language that he's a little bit retarded. But anyways, I will holler at y'all We need some results, and I believe we're going to see some results. Thank you, Tony Baisley, for your incredible work. This is January the 6th, 2018, and I'll holler at everybody later.